These are literally the people that keep our city running.
Yeah.
That
And they deserve to be able to
keep it
live
afloat,
here.
and they deserve
right?
to be able to live near where they work.
The River District is a part of New Orleans along the Mississippi River. It's a ton of vacant parcels that have been undeveloped for decades. There has been a plan to turn it into a moneymaker.
I think most folks are familiar with Topgolf.
New Orleans is effectively going from 0 to 2.
My hope is we will have amazing housing that is accessible to everyone right on the river. I will second line in the street.
I'm excited.
Hey guys, real quick, before we get into it, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any of the tea. Thanks. Hi, Charles.
Good morning, Etosha.
How are you?
I'm doing great. This is an exciting day. How are you?
I'm very excited as well.
Awesome.
What's going on today?
So we are doing a podcast.
We are doing a podcast.
We're giving our text messages and sending out to the people. We've been talking for years, and now we're kind of doing it on an official platform. That's exciting.
Getting it done, yes. So, Charles, before we jump into it, let's tell the folks how we know each other.
Absolutely. So, everyone, I'll give you a little backstory about Etosha and I. We have known each other since childhood. And we actually met kind of in middle school. She transferred to my elementary school, which became her elementary school as well. And we have kind of been on and off as friends. And then as adulthood, through a lot of adulting, we kind of just kept bringing it back to our friendship, and here we are, right? And
yeah, you can't get rid of me.
You can't get rid of me either, right? And we kind of just realized we have a lot of similarities. We're both very political. We're very opinionated. We have a lot of thoughts on things, and this just felt like the natural progression of our friendship, right? That we are taking what we already do in a podcast platform. So I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. So, to tell the folks a little bit about you have your PhD.
I do.
In urban studies.
I have been in school for quite a long time. And as we go through these episodes, y'all are going to get to know Etosha and I have this nickname. I've been dubbed the mayor of Terrytown.
By my father.
Yes.
He's been the mayor of Terrytown since we were children.
Correct.
So.
Etosha and I are from New Orleans, but, being from New Orleans means different things to different people. We're technically from the West Bank, the suburbs, Terrytown to be specific. Since as a child, I've just been very interested in space and cities and neighborhoods and streets and all that stuff. And that led to a PhD in urban studies, right?
Which is very exciting.
It is very exciting.
Why we're podcasting, right?
Why are we podcasting?
These are conversations we've been having since we were kids. I can remember, as things changed in our neighborhoods, we would always run home and say, well, Charles said that's going to be a new gas station. That's going to be a new strip mall. So,
did you hear that store closed in Oakland Mall?
I did.
It's being replaced by this store? Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to watch this evolution as we've grown as adults, as you've grown academically, how our conversations have changed, how the world around us and our city and our state have changed. And it's really great to bring this to other people, to share these conversations more broadly, to hear other people's thoughts on all of these things that are going on, because we're definitely living in an ever-evolving world. Things like podcasting platforms allow everyday people like you and I to share these conversations in ways that used to be, I'm having coffee with a friend or I'm texting with a friend. It now gets to be more broad. It gets to be with everyone in the city, everyone in the state, and even, globally with people around the world. So I'm really excited to get to talk about our two favorite topics.
Oh, me too.
The city we live in, New Orleans, and the state we love, Louisiana.
Yep.
So we're going to get into it.
I'm excited.
Our first episode today is about the River District.
The River District.
The River District.
So we're jumping right into it.
We're jumping right in. I feel like you cannot go anywhere in New Orleans right now. You can't listen to talk radio. You can't watch the news. You can't get on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and not hear about the River District. But I'm not sure everyone knows exactly what the River District is. So, Charles, tell us, what is the River District?
All right, let's give some background. This is my jam, right? So I teach a class called Intro to Cities, and, in my course, we talk a lot about what's happening in New Orleans, and it kind of really brings it to the students. And we have been following the River District. So I'm going to give all y'all a little background about the River District. So the River District is referring to part of New Orleans along the Mississippi River that is kind of sandwiched between the convention center downtown, the Lower Garden District, the Irish Channel, Chapatoulas Street. And it's a ton of vacant parcels that have been undeveloped and vacant for decades. And there has been a plan now it didn't come overnight, right? So the River District has been planned for a good 10 years to transform this undeveloped part of New Orleans and turn it into a moneymaker, right?
Yeah.
Urban Studies 101, an undeveloped piece of land makes no money, develop makes money, right?
Absolutely.
So the plan is to create a new neighborhood. And I want to be, what's really interesting about the River District is that this is not unique to New Orleans. This is a trend. We're actually late to the game, if anything. This is actually very hot in other cities. I was reading an article the other day about Hudson Yards in New York.
I was going to say, this really
very
reminds me
of
Hudson Yards, Chelsea Piers, that area
Absolutely.
in New York. Right down to, one of the things we're going to get into, the Gulf that's developing
yes.
there. But yeah, taking this space that used to be more industrial right along the river, converting it into usable space where people are shopping, they're living, they're, creating community. So it's definitely not unique to us.
Correct.
And if successful, would be really exciting to see in a city like ours.
If successful. So you kind of said the operative, yes. So what they're trying to do is, it's this expression, live, work, play, right? So they want to create a neighborhood quite literally from scratch. And it's going to be a mixture of housing, retail, and there's been some interesting confirmations already of what will also go in there. So there's two linchpins to the River District, in my opinion. One is Shell. So Shell currently has their New Orleans headquarters in One Shell Square. Old school New Orleanians will know it's called One Shell Square. It's now
the Hancock Whitney building now, Charles.
Correct, the Hancock Whitney Center on Poydras Street. Sorry, showing my old New Orleanian self. Long story short, Shell essentially threatened the city, saying that either we get a new building or we're going to relocate the 800 to 1,000 employees we have to Houston.
Okay.
So behind the scenes, they were working with the River District officials, which, by the way, the River District developers is actually a very diverse group of people.
Yes.
It's diverse in terms of race, native status to New Orleans, gender. So it's actually pretty representative of New Orleans, which is really cool. So Shell, a few months ago, made an announcement that they're going to build a whole new building in the River District. And that started a series of controversies. And the first big one was they applied for to subsidize it, right? To get some money. And that creates a lot of attempts from tax breaks. And that's already a lot of controversy. But what really happened, that was the bigger controversy at the end of 2023, was they were not being very transparent. And they kind of were backtracking on some things, and they kind of eliminated city council from being active in it and kind of just went around them. Right. And then that got into the news, and people were like, wait, what's going on? Like, this is not okay. So what started out as and this has wide support from the state, the city, this River District.
Right.
And then Shell pulls this stunt, right? And it's like, okay, why did you do that? Like, did you have to do that? That wasn't necessary.
Right, but I think it's one of the things that's really important to note about this, right, that adds a layer of complication is the River District developers are a group that are essentially tenants of the state, right? Because I think it's really important to note that land is convention center land and that the convention center is essentially a state-owned entity. So there's kind of this mix, right, of state-level interests and city-level interests. It's something that is happening in the heart of the city of New Orleans, but is happening on property that's technically owned by the state. So how much control should city council actually have in this? How many of these decisions should they really have a say in? And I think that's one of the many complications of this is it is a really great opportunity for our city and our state as a whole. but it can get really complicated with these mixed interests and these, multiple different opinions that kind of are looking at these things from very different perspectives. Our city council really is focused on the quality of life for our citizens and the quality of life for their constituents and what a development like this means at a very micro level. From a statewide level, though, we don't want to lose a tenant like Shell, right?
So what do you think? So I'm curious, what's your thoughts? Are you in favor of Shell building a new building in the River District?
I am.
I actually am too. I know that's a controversial statement, and I didn't want to say it.
Hot take.
But I'm not against it. I'm really not.
Neither am I.
Why are you not against it?
So I think one of those things that can really help a development like that succeed and grow is when you create a large office building, it feeds an ecosystem, right?
Oh, yeah. And Shell's customizing it. They want it like, this is what we want.
Right. They know what they want. They are, one of the few entities that are keeping their employees in office in a post-COVID world, right? So that means that there are sandwich shops, dry cleaners, all of these things that service something like a tenant like Shell getting to operate in this space.
And that was actually the intention, right? So part of the draw of having Shell in the River District was to have a permanent presence of like 800 consistent employees every single day. Right, yeah. Which will cater into a grocery store. And so, again, I'm in favor of it. I've seen renderings. I don't know if you've seen. Yeah,
you
sent them to you, right?
You sent them to me.
It's going to be the first high-rise built in New Orleans since the 80s.
Right.
We have some in the South Market District, which is a whole other little neighborhood, but those are more residential. But like an office building, it looks really good.
Yeah, I think there's really something to be said about that.
I'm not against it, right? And Shell, they could easily leave for Houston, right? It's been done.
Right.
And they're not. So for that reason alone, I'm not against it.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to be not transparent. So let's not do that.
You don't have to be shady. But
shady, yes. Y'all being
I'm
shady.
definitely supportive of that. I think it says something to see an entity like Shell say, we still want to be here. Mm-hmm. They've got a long list of requirements to stay, but I think that's so important, especially when we talk about economic development in our city.
And they're good paying jobs. I mean, these are good paying jobs.
We're good salaried jobs, people who are going to live in this community, right? Because the other core piece of this, right, is there's a residential aspect to the River District.
Let's talk about that.
So people
part.
are living where they're working.
Yes.
When we talk about all the downstream effects of how it supports all of the entities in our city, the restaurants, our public transit, all of those things are being raised by that tide of having a district like that. And, having Shell bring their employees there, I think, is a huge component of that. Yeah. I also think that, if Shell's there, other people are going to come there, right?
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's not the only commercial space.
I think that would be a
catalyst
for potential other office tenants to move there.
Absolutely.
Now, okay, part of this, there's a debate. Are we really just shifting, right? So we're going to leave Poydras for the River District. So what does that mean for the Hancock Whitney Center, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some aspect of that, right? Like that attrition's going to happen, right? But I do think there is enough still on Poydras, right? We still see the development that's happening there, to your point, South Market District. So I don't think that will completely decimate Poydras. Also, there's a pretty solid footprint to the River District, right? So it's not like everybody.
It's not big, right?
It's not a very
it's
large
proportion
space.
to the size of New Orleans,
right?
And if anything, our office market downtown is actually faring a lot better than other cities, and I think that's because we're more compact, right, in terms of our buildings.
Agreed.
So again, and you also bring up the housing thing. So let's talk about that part. So the housing component. So again, this is a live work play neighborhood. So there's I think there's 3 buildings announced for housing so far, but the source of debate is affordable workforce housing.
Right.
So from day one, there was an explicit commitment stated to the public that a certain portion of the housing will be for workforce, so that people who work in kind of your lower paying hospitality jobs can live where they are working.
Absolutely.
And they want this to be, a new modern neighborhood in New Orleans that kind of addresses historic wrongs and we can build smart.
Yeah.
Depending on who you talk to, it's like, did y'all actually want the workforce housing? Is it actually going to happen? The council member who represents that district, Leslie Harris, has been very vocal. No, this is going to happen. We have it in writing. You need to believe us. But, it's important to be skeptical, right? Because we have been let down in the past.
I was going to say,
so we are skeptical because we have evidence on our side.
Totally
right?
reasonable to be skeptical, right? We can go through and we won't name names, but name multiple developments over just the past 10 years that have said, oh, there's going to be an affordable housing component, and then it wasn't, right?
So do we believe them?
I
believe them, I think.
Oh, this is where I diverge. I'm not convinced.
How would that look if they ultimately did not build it? I mean, that would, bad publicity.
It would be bad publicity, but at the end of the day, once it's built, right? Yeah. And if people are moving in, they've got what they wanted. The people are there, the commercial tenants are there, and the blowback is, we'll deal with the media piece, right? So I'm not fully convinced, just based off of the history of a lot of these redevelopments we've seen in our city that are supposed to be either affordable housing or mixed income, or we're going to have, dedicated units that are going to be affordable, and like what was supposed to be, 30% of the building turns into 5% of the building,
Correct.
right? And we know that affordable housing is something so critical to our community. I was on the board for one of the charter schools here, and one of our biggest struggles was we have no kindergartners. Yeah. We have no kindergartners in the classes because families literally cannot afford to live in the city of New Orleans anymore. This is a city that, the largest part of our economy is hospitality. So many of these jobs,
which isn't necessarily the best paying,
right? These are literally
industry.
The people that keep our city running.
Oh, yeah.
That
and they deserve to be able to
keep it
live
afloat,
here,
and they deserve
right?
to be able to live near where they work.
Not the far-flung parts like Algiers in the east, which, yes, but
are
they're being steered there.
But
right?
people should be able to live where they work.
Want. Exactly.
Right? And that's not unreasonable. I shouldn't have to take, 4 buses through 2 interchanges because I'm coming from Gretna to work on Canal Street, right?
Exactly. Agreed.
So I hope that happens, but I'm definitely heavily on the skeptical side of this, that I'm not
I don't blame you.
100% convinced that we're really going to see truly affordable housing in that community. I'll say another thing, right? Like, we constantly talk about mixed income housing here in New Orleans, and we haven't really seen that happen. We see that in other cities and other urban spaces where people truly are living in mixed income housing, and where there are all types of people living in the community together. And that just doesn't seem to really take off here. I think we get a lot of NIMBYism happening.
Oh, a lot of NIMBYism.
That really prevents that. And it's really unfortunate because I think it erodes the fabric of our city.
Oh, yeah.
What makes New Orleans a beautiful, wonderful place to be is the diversity of our communities, the diversity of culture here. And when we create these communities where people are not able to live, or where, actual long-term housing is being replaced with Airbnbs and whatnot.
Short-term rentals.
Right. Like, it just completely, I think, erodes away at what makes New Orleans beautiful, what makes New Orleans wonderful. So my hope is we will have amazing housing that is accessible to everyone right on the river. Like, that would
If they do it, I'm going to...
That would be
wow, okay. Y'all do
listen,
that.
I will second line in the street for that.
We'll be right in the front, right?
But I'm definitely I'm not holding my breath on this one. I will say that.
But, the housing is interesting because that also leads to the other second major part of the River District. So Shell is one half, the other one's Topgolf.
Let's
talk about
into it, because there's a lot going on with that, right?
Yeah, so let me bring the readers up to speed a little bit. So New Orleans is effectively going from, so Topgolf is a national chain, right?
Yeah,
and
I think most folks are familiar with Topgolf.
New Orleans doesn't have that. We're actually going from 0 to 2.
Very quickly.
So the 2 is, so Topgolf is 1, and there's going to be a local iteration called 504. So for our listeners, 504 is the area code for New Orleans. 504 Golf. And they are going to be 5 minutes from each other, maybe 10.
Max.
Both located off of I-10. So where do I begin with the Topgolf? Okay, so 2 things. When River District was first introduced, Topgolf was supposed to be on the river side of Chapatoulas Street.
Right.
And the other side, which is adjacent to the Lower Garden District, was going to be more of the housing and some light retail, grocery store. And the renderings showed that.
Right.
It's been flipped. So the Topgolf is no longer on the river. It is now next to the Lower Garden District, which is an old historic neighborhood. Yep. So think Topgolf and the netting and the actual infrastructure of Topgolf next to this, they're just clashing, right?
Yeah.
So the residents feel bamboozled, rightfully so. But just to play a tiny little devil's advocate, renderings can always change. And, just because it's introduced that way doesn't necessarily mean that's the final.
Absolutely.
But I understand the frustration. And the Topgolf is going to be built on top of what was formerly a homeless encampment, which is a whole nother part of this controversy. So New Orleans got a $30+ million grant to tackle some of the homeless camps. I know it's not the point of this episode, but let's just call it for what it is. The Super Bowl's coming. We can't have homelessness be publicly visible, right? And the first camp that was torn down was where Topgolf's going to be built. You put two and two together. It was all very, not coincidental. So Topgolf has been getting a lot of pushback from residents because of the lack of transparency, the switching of the plans, the fact that there's a local version coming. It's like, can New Orleans support from 0 to 2? So I don't really know.
Well, also, too, we have to...
So that's the background. So what do you think?
Well, but we have to go back even further, right? Because the location that is going to be 504 was actually supposed to be Topgolf, right?
Yes. So the pandemic changed all that. Right. So that was going to be Topgolf, which used to be the former Times-Picayune newspaper building. Pandemic hits, everything stops.
That falls apart.
And local developers like, actually, I want to take it. But remember, Drive Shack was kind of the in-between. So it was a third iteration. It was going to be Topgolf,
then it was going to be a Drive Shack. And so now, and one of the key differences, right, is they've actually broken ground.
Oh, yeah, they're actively working on it.
We've got a structure there.
You drive past it, they're working on the 504 golf.
That is going to very soon be an actual driving range there. And we're still fighting about Topgolf's location in the River District, right? So all of this is definitely happening in alignment with the city's trying to get gussied up for the Super Bowl and get ready and have these amenities that other large cities have that people are going to be looking for, that they want to engage with. And I'm not convinced that we are a city that can support two gigantic
that's the question.
Driving ranges.
I think about that a lot. My gut says that Topgolf would attract more conventioners, tourists, bachelor parties who come to the city, whereas I think 504 golf, you would draw more suburban from Metairie. They don't have to drive to Baton Rouge anymore. I could be wrong, but that's like what my gut says. And, I'm not a business person, so I'm going to assume they did their research, right? They wouldn't open something they didn't think would make a profit. Would assume. So I don't really know. So the Topgolf is, and what's interesting about Topgolf is I don't think they've broken ground yet, and we're in early May, and they have been very open that they want to be open for the Super Bowl, which that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not. It's like,
unless
there's ambitious and there's delusional.
Yes, I think we're teetering the line.
We're teetering on Delulu here, right?
We're teetering the line. They also had to do some street rerouting, and so again, it's been a big mess. A lot of public forums. People are angry. But I think
a lot of controversy.
Ultimately, it got passed, and I think it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen adjacent to the neighborhood. I can certainly understand the frustration of the neighbors there. Yes, renderings can change, but also I didn't expect to have the big golf netting. I mean, any of us who have seen a Topgolf a similar type of facility, I mean, these are imposing structures. They've got the massive nets. Personally, I just think it would be cooler on the riverside just to go swing on the riverside. Right. I mean, if you've ever been out to Chelsea Piers where their driving range is right on the Hudson River, that's a pretty cool place to go swing some golf clubs. Yeah. So it's kind of surprising to me that they made that switch just from an aesthetic standpoint. But I can definitely understand the frustration of the residents in that area of, hey, I'm all for development, but this is not exactly what I signed up for. And I can definitely understand the question around, are we a city that can really support both of these? And then if one goes under, what do you do with this kind of structure, right?
Because that's a unique structure.
This is very specific. This is a very specific structure. What do you do with it if that business is no longer there?
Now, what's also unique about the Topgolf as opposed to Shell is that Topgolf is footing everything. They're not getting money from the city. They're not getting any type of tax break, no subsidies. So, and their argument, and it's a rational argument, right? We are turning a vacant lot into a lot that can bring in tax revenue for New Orleans.
And bring in significant tax
right?
revenue
And
for
I
New
can't
Orleans.
be mad at that.
Right.
So, it's kind of like the big scale. And for the readers, for the listeners, I am actually very pro River District.
Same.
From an urban perspective, like I think it'll be really good for New Orleans. Again, this is no different than what other cities are doing and have been doing.
And no development's
if
perfect,
executed
right?
well, it could really be a game changer for New Orleans, right?
Agreed.
In a way that we can really kind of unite downtown with that part. And, again, New Orleans is very compact, so it kind of just feeds into the already layout of the city. But again, you need to be more transparent, stop being shady, be upfront with us, right? You're not gonna. You want us on. We want it.
You want to get people on board for this.
Exactly.
You want people excited, right? Because it's not just about community support. It's also you want people like counting down on their calendar when these things are going to open. I want to go eat here. I want to go play golf here. I want to go look at an apartment and potentially move here, right? You want this to feel like something that people are really looking forward to being a part of. And if it's constantly shrouded in controversy or situations where people are feeling like you're not being above board, you're not giving all the information, they're not going to be excited about being a part of it. They're going to be excited about pushing up against it, you know? And so I think they're in this like kind of weird space where there's still a lot of like, what is the River District? Or like, why should I support this? And what's going on over there? Or, they just hear about controversy and go, well, then we don't want that, right? We don't need anything else controversial in the city.
Exactly.
And so I think there's a little bit of PR
that 1 million%.
River District could be doing.
And look, they've been publishing editorials saying, whoa, y'all painted us in a bad light. This is what it is. And, there's been some activists in the city who have been very publicly against it and have received some letters of, stop doing this or we're going to sue you type of thing. Right. And again, when we started the episode, you were saying yourself that if you live in New Orleans, you've heard of the River District. Like, it's always in the news. It's like, what's going to happen with it? So here's the question. 5 years from now, what will have transpired?
5 years from now?
What buildings will be built? I'm assuming Topgolf will be done. Will there be like an apartment already built?
I think 5 years from now, we'll definitely have Topgolf there.
Okay.
I think we'll probably have some eateries and whatnot because I think, people always love to hit up a restaurant in New Orleans. I think we could at least
with housing above it. So we're thinking like South Market.
I think we could at least have at least one like kind of South Market style building where there's residential, there's actual restaurants in there, and like people are utilizing the space. Maybe we'll even be roommates in the River District.
Well, there'll be a grocery store there. I think about that.
Ooh, I'm not convinced that there'll be a grocery store. In 5 years, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No, not yet. Because it's still in close enough proximity to like either going down Tchoupitoulas to some of the grocery stores there or going to the grocery store that's over on Barone. So I don't know if there would actually be a grocery there yet, but I do see in 5 years that we're getting some like real development. Like people are actually doing the intent, living, working, and playing. I
think what would make the River District truly successful is if they landed a second major corporate tenant.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm here for the residential and the retail and the commercial and the Topgolf. Cool. But, I'm very economic development. If y'all can land a regional something, I've heard a lot of discussions of a second office building. So Shell really customizing theirs. But, what's it called? Like building to lease, like build. And so, if they can do that, that'll be really good. Yeah,
it would be great to see another big corporate tenant that's coming from the outside and coming from a different industry,
Let's steal some stuff from Austin or Nashville.
Right? Like, but let's not get Austin traffic. Like,
okay, yeah, let's not get Austin traffic,
we don't want Austin's traffic.
Or Austin sterility. Sorry, no offense, Austin.
No shade to Austin.
You're a cool city, right?
Keep Austin weird.
I like my grit and, my potholes and my cracked sidewalks.
Absolutely. But yeah, for sure, it would definitely be great to see more business, more corporate entities come in there. And certainly to see, again, people really being able to kind of get that walkable life in that community. I can eat out here, I can live here, I can go to my job here, and seeing how that also will buoy up other restaurants, businesses around that
It'll
community.
Filter into like Central City, right?
Yeah.
And, kind of the spillover effect.
How it can really just trickle out downstream and just create a better New Orleans overall.
So overall, we're in favor?
Oh, I'm definitely pro River District. I'm definitely pro River District. Do it right. Be above board. Be honest. Make sure you have the affordable housing.
Yes.
We're watching you.
We are watching you. If y'all don't have
keeping an
affordable
eye.
housing, we have it on record on this episode that
You said you were going to do it, and we're going to watch out for it. Yeah. I mean, that's all I want to see. I want to see New Orleans flourish. I think this is great, especially right on the river. Land that I think is prime riverfront property that we just haven't done anything with. It's super exciting, and I think it'll be like a really wonderful, beautiful community.
We shall see.
We shall see.
Maybe season 2 will be like, what's the update? So.
I know. Each season we'll do a River District update.
Agreed.
What's going on? Where are we at? Maybe we'll even do an episode from Topgolf.
All right, I'll meet you there for the Super Bowl. If it's open.
If it's open. Well, Charles, this was a really great convo on
great
River
first
District.
episode.
Great first episode. I'm really excited to see where this goes. This was a fun one. I don't know if all of them will be quite as fun as this one.
A little more serious topics, but this was a nice, good way to like dive into it.
Ease our way into what's going on in our city.
Agreed.
And, I'm excited to continue the conversation.
Me too.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, it was great chatting. See you next
time.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Pelican Briefs.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
If you are loving the show, you can help us keep the conversation going by supporting us on Patreon.
Your contribution on Patreon ensures we can continue producing quality content you love.
Click the link in the description to become a patron today.
Until next time, this is Pelican Briefs.